Hi, Chris.
Hello, Christina.
I brought
How
us
art
another
thou?
victim. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm super yawny and super teary. So I
That's
have
a
no
good thing, by the way. That means he's got a lot of things to probably process and share about you.
yeah.
Brooke. So, our guest today is Brooke, and I know Brooke. She is my childhood friend.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Childhood friend. This is true.
childhood friend. We have, I don't know how many details to share about the things that we got up to together, but I know that she gave me my first beer, in which I had to lie to my parents to go over to the house where we were supposed to have this beer. And I drank the neck of it and was like, ah! I remember that. Do you remember that?
No, but I'm positive I probably still did that.
Oh, I know you did. I have a lot of other memories that I don't think should be mentioned here. But so with that said, it has been a long time since I've known her, and things kind of never really change. Like it kind of things change, but they stay the same as at the same time. So I'm really looking forward to having.
You are who you are, who you are. Like at your core, I think you are who you are, who you are. You know?
Right. It's like I've known you, and I just met you yesterday.
Yep.
Same thing.
All the things. Yep.
Yep. Well, first of all, thank you for coming on. And with that said, I think we should go ahead and start the party.
All right, let's start the party.
All right. Chris, you or me go first?
I'll start because I'm not quite sure, and then I want to sink back in and see where this is all going. So a little bit on the front end about you driving erratically. So it was kind of like a little bit of a speed freak, and just kind of it was interesting. I'll figure out why and where that's coming in, and then the
Could be a
next thing.
metaphor.
Yeah, the next thing I saw was, maybe you remember these, or maybe I'm aging myself, but there was like the spirographs. It's like those little things you'd get that were plastic as a kid, and you'd stick your pen in there, multicolored pen, and then you'd spin it around, and it would make these really intricate designs. I saw that.
I
was
know exactly what you're talking about, Chris. My sister had that.
You're
My
great.
sister had a spirograph toy that I played with. Yep.
And your sister is still with us, right?
100%. Yep.
And then the third thing I received was you, almost like you were presiding over a graduation. And so you're wearing this like black professorial outfit and the cap, and you're pushing your glasses up, and you're like tapping your pen. And it was like, I'm trying to be serious, y'all, right? And like no one was necessarily taking you seriously. And so what I wrote down there was, either you have a hard time being taken seriously, and that's causing some sort of dissonance in your professional life, or the alternative was that there's something that needs to be taken more seriously that you're not taking control of. So I'll spend more time noodling through this. So when Christina spills her beans, I'll see if I can tie these three very distinctly different things together.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
But I don't know how much I should reveal.
Nothing
You don't
yet.
have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you're on the right track, Chris, though.
So
like you're on the right track. That's what I'll say right now.
All right.
So Brooke, right when I opened your records, I kind of saw you in like pajamas. This is our second pajama metaphor, Chris. In pajamas, and you're just so super Brooke, like happy, but then you turn into your father, and then you turn back into yourself. And I want to say this without crying, because it feels like you're very worried about your father right now, and that's coming through very strong. And so I have some things that came through about how you can support yourself as you get used to the inevitable mortality of humans. And I'm so sorry for bringing this up, but
It's okay. It's okay. It's real though.
Yeah.
That is true and real, and it's okay.
Yeah,
I get it.
I've been through it myself, and it is a bitter pill to swallow. And the advice that I'm kind of getting to support you as you adjust your mindset to mortality, and that the fact that it is very clear that you always know that people pass. You always know your parents won't be around forever, and your grandparents and everybody else, and that people can just go young, and you know these things. But then there comes a point where all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this is how it kind of looks in the emotions and feelings. So you're kind of, and I feel like this is not just your issue. This is kind of a family issue. It's like kind of you can talk about this with your eyes with your other siblings right now, and everybody's kind of thinking the same. And this is like during holidays and things where everyone's not saying anything but like looking at each other, and you're saying a lot, right? So the way to kind of support yourself during this kind of pill that you're swallowing is the fact that accepting that it is not easy. But then also at the same time, you have to kind of extend yourself some grace. You can't trouble yourself with regrets. You can't trouble yourself with the burden of what can I do differently to have a different outcome than what's happening now or what might happen. You can't do that. It's almost like you have to surf a wave, and you have to ride the water. So you can't really dictate what wave might come, but you have to let go of yourself, in that you're going to have to feel the life happening as it's happening without any, as little emotional judgment as you can for internally. So does that make sense at all to you?
Yes, but it fucking sucks.
I know. But
I'm gonna just say it, as I'm gonna be real. Like, that sucks though.
Oh, yeah, it sucks.
Makes so much sense, but it's awful.
Oh, it's awful. And here's the thing, when I'm telling you, of course you could turn around and tell somebody else, like, you know what, guys, we just got to accept this. But everyone else is on their own internal journey with this. So it's going to look different in everybody. But the events that are happening are the same. And that's what sucks too, because you can't do anything. And when these kinds of things come to mind in a family situation, when things start happening, people change their behavior in a way, and you can't predict how that's going to be. You're not going to be able to predict what's going to happen with, your brother and your sister or your sister-in-law and things like that. It's just all different. And so again, kind of the advice that's coming through is you have to stick to your own needs, speak to your own needs in your journey. Be supported. I hear that you have a very supportive husband, very supportive. He's going to be a rock when these things happen. He will be around. And I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. And I'm not saying it's going to happen this year. It's just this, it's on the mind right now that it's happening. It will happen. It's going to happen with my mom and everything else. So, yeah. So that was a big thing that just came through. So
and I will agree 100%. I agree and solidify whatever you're thinking and that feeling. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So from a professional perspective, you're not a teacher, but there's something that you do that involves educating people.
Yes, Chris.
Okay. What do you do?
I am in leadership and education. I don't know how much I should reveal. So
at this point, like the more you reveal, the more we'll be able to help.
I'm sorry, what?
the more you reveal at this point, now that you kind of isolated why I'm seeing these things, the more it's actually going to help. Because
So
I'm going to see things that won't make
I
sense
have been
to me.
a classroom teacher in previous years. I am currently in leadership and education, where I am a teacher to teachers. And I support teachers in a mentoring, coaching way.
Okay.
Does that help you?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's funny, right? So yay, whatever that is.
So you're on the right track.
Right. Where's the dissonance? Meaning, why are you not being taken seriously? Or why do you feel like you're not being taken seriously?
This is so good. There are some budgetary cuts right now in our district due to COVID.
Mhm.
And I have worked very hard for our current district and put a lot of emphasis on things that are going on in our district. And so the dissonance is, will I get to continue in leadership, or will I be put back in more of a classroom, you do what we say position? That's the best way I can say it without giving away too much.
Well, which would you prefer?
Leadership, 100%.
Right. And so,
There's no, I mean, if you know me, you would know that. So.
yeah. Yeah, and that feels right. And I'm trying to figure out why it is that you're behind the lectern and you're kind of like tapping your pen on the podium, right? Like, no, pay attention, pay attention. Because what you have to share is valuable. And it's beyond teaching teachers. It's about slowing down and recognizing patterns.
I would agree.
All right. And so while control is a word that can be a little scary, right? And for some people it's a trigger because you really can't control much of anything, with the exception of your attitude and how you show up. But when you put a framework in place, it's important for people to feel as if they still have room to be creative. And this is where the spirograph comes in, because you still have all of these different patterns that are available. It's limitless. These are the fractals and it's geometry, and you can use whatever color pen you want, and create all these very beautiful and intricate personifications of how a teacher that you're teaching would want to show up, where they can put their own stamp on it. And yet you still provide the framework in which they can operate. So it stands to reason now. So I don't think you'll have to go back into the classroom, but I do think you need to rethink how we show up into this next normal, and providing a very concrete and stable framework that allows for these teachers to take a more individualized approach to their particular curriculum in their classroom and meeting the needs of their particular classroom. Because while fourth grade is fourth grade, and you have similar patterns and making up the number, and from a developmental perspective, every classroom has its own feel. It's like a living, breathing organism, right? So it has its own personality. And your teachers that you're mentoring and coaching would benefit by you enabling them to feel creative, even though you're really kind of puppet mastering, if you will, and saying, okay, you can create all you want, but just stay on this particular piece of plastic that the wheel spins around in. But there's room for you to continue to embellish on this framework that you've started with, but maybe you haven't rolled this out yet. It feels like you have something sitting up here that you want to try, which is experimental and different, that maybe you're just not comfortable sharing, and you feel like it's not quite ready. Does that resonate? Does that make sense to you?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I'm a lot of the things that you said make a lot of sense, Chris. Like, yes. I think the piece that resonates that I'm wanting to do creatively is along the lines of equity, inclusion, diversity. And I don't know if I have all the pieces here in my brain or my heart. I mean, like, I really super appreciate, like, hey, you have all the things that you need to make this happen. I don't feel as confident as you do that I have all the pieces to make it happen. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's not going to come from your head.
Okay, go on.
It's going to come from your heart.
Of course.
And this is why it maybe feels a little bit less concrete for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a feeling and not an idea. It's instinct and intuition, not a class that you took or best practices that you scraped off the internet. This is Robbie, Brooke, Will showing up from this very vulnerable part of your heart, getting it on paper and leading from there. That's going to make a significant difference, not just in your own life, in the life of your teachers, but in the life of the community that you serve. So out of our head and into our heart, slow down. Right? It's fun to drive fast cars and to do that, but this is driver's ed. We're teaching other people how to drive, right? And you want for them to feel like they have control and agency over the experience and how you're creating this. It also makes sense as to why I was seeing the multicolored pen when we're talking about, is it EDI or EID or equity, inclusion and diversity, and working with underrepresented and underserved communities, where every color becomes part of this really beautiful, sacred piece of art.
That is so interesting, but I agree.
Right. So so how do we make this something practical?
Well, I don't know. I know literally nothing about any of the things that you guys are doing. Nothing. Like, I'm like the dumbest person ever on all the things. No, seriously. Like, I'm not about like the spirituality and the psychic and like, nope. I'm like so conservative and like from this little Christian home, and like my mom would be like, don't you dare like go into that psychic realm. However, both of you are spot on.
Well, I got more for you if you're ready.
Well, Jesus shows up once in a while too, right? So like Jesus is my favorite Buddhist. He's just amazing, right?
It's okay. Thank you, Chris and Christina.
Yes. So one other thing I want to add to that, and which will be a fun exercise for you, because I'm thinking like, what's a tangible way for you then to begin to experience this? Mm-hmm. And it's to put yourself and to sit. You pray or meditate, or you can just carve out like 15 minutes by yourself. Mm-hmm. Imagine yourself as one of these students coming back to school in person for the first time after who knows what they had to go through, right? Just to be able to get to school. And if there's lack of internet, computers, parents not being home, everybody being home, and everyone's going to have unique trauma and opportunities from this past, 13 or 14 months. But to sit there and think like that young boy or that young girl, and it's like, if you could create any sort of an experience for them coming back to school and applying what we've learned about ourselves and each other, what would that first day look like? What would that first month look like?
Mhm.
And work it from that angle. And it's not any one, like, so there's going to be maybe 5. Imagine yourself as 5 different children, right, or young adults, whatever it might be, with different experiences, broken homes, single parents, many siblings, super privileged, and sheltered in the bubble, and others who maybe had to pick up a job at Postmates to help out their family, like all these things. And to think through and ask, how this is how I would be best served going back in.
Mhm. I can see the 5.
Okay, good. And I think from there, you just start taking notes and some more ideas will come. And then it's less about what's going on in between your ears and more about, does it move me right here? Does it move my spirit? Does it move my soul? Is this something I can get excited about? And then get up on that lectern and command the audience, and I need to be taken seriously.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, sorry, Christina.
Oh, don't be sorry. That's good because
That's good.
it kind of lays the foundation for me. Okay, so first of all, when I kind of asked if you would be back in the classroom, I got a no. I don't see that either happening, but I wrote down squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I do feel as if there will be there will be some persuasion to have to happen, and a lot of advocating for what direction you want to go. And not just now. It's going to be like
write
that.
down things? Am I allowed to write down things?
Yes. Yeah. She really doesn't know.
Like super important to my career.
So go ahead. Yeah, go. We'll wait.
This commercial break is brought to you by Ovaltine.
Ovaltine, chocolatey goodness in your cup.
And now we're back.
Oh, take note.
Okay, go on.
Yes. So I feel like this is going to be for a while, and it's always going to be you, because there's a comfort in doing the same thing over and over again, unless politics or mandate something changes the trajectory. That's the only reason why higher ups want to change direction. So, Brooke, I saw you perhaps running for some sort of office in the next 10 years. I don't know if that has been something on top of mind for you, but something to do with educational leadership. But it's more the political area where you get to be the active person within the state of Minnesota, where you're going to help. I'm trying to see if it's back end or front end, but you're going to be very involved in the creation of regulations and laws and change. And it will be also, I don't want to say a difficult or impossible battle, but it's going to be, just like everything in politics. It's always, you got to fight for what you want. You got to talk about it, but you have the mouth.
For me to tell you what this battle might be about, the topic.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if you want to put it out there.
Well, I think it's going to be a lot about equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Yeah,
because that's
where
my heart is. And you mentioned that a little bit, but yeah.
Well, I get something about not separating the differently abled, somehow putting them in the classroom. I feel like that's a big issue for you. And I think that's the biggest one, because I feel like there's separation, but I also feel maybe there's the ethnic groups. Maybe I've never been to Minnesota. I've only been in the airport in Minneapolis to transfer, but I feel maybe indigenous, but also maybe Middle Eastern population or something, very, very, very much, people that have come over from maybe Europe and abroad and things. So you have that, and there's some maybe perhaps underlying racism, dare I say, about all of that. But then there's also money, income for the indigenous, and then the money that people are bringing in. So there's the other side of it as well. So it's just a big, it's an area of a very exciting and electric change. And I feel like you're going to be a big part of that. And I do feel that I'm looking kind of like at your maybe office run for office here. I feel like at first you're going to go kind of a little bit up to maybe like the county board or something, where you're going to be involved in the county area. But I do see you having a possibility at like a state position, whatever that may entail for you. And I'm not getting any specific like area or job that you have to run for. I feel like that's part of the journey, because that's part of your step by step process as the human.
You're not the first person that's ever said this.
Oh, good. Well, we might be on the right track then, hopefully.
But it is also cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you're not actually the first, and I've never done, okay, first of all, Chris and Christina, I've never done anything like this. So you guys are my first people. However, I have had someone speak from a maybe more just, I know who you are in that regard. Who knows? Maybe they were speaking from a spiritual or, psychic type sense, and they just didn't share that with me. Yeah. But it is very interesting to me politically that you shared that, because that is not, nope. I would say, no, want to be in any of that political stuff. However, it makes sense too, because
But here's what I'm getting right away. As you say that, I get a rebuttal. It's like the people who, there are two types of people that get into politics. And the one that we're talking about are the people that the discomfort that they are willing to endure in order to push what they believe is right overrides this, like, ooh, I don't want to be in politics. It completely overrides that. And you're kind of part of that, where that desire overrides it all, and it'll make it worth it in the end, kind of deal. Where, and also that's kind of, it should be a little bit of a comfort to you, because you don't have to be a career politician to be a politician. You just have to want change and be passionate and really feel in your heart that's the right thing to do. So you're ready to go whenever that time happens. You don't need to be feeling inferior, like, oh, I'm not ready. No, when the door starts to crack open, you put your foot in there and you kind of burst it open and go for it. So don't feel like you're not ready. That's what I'm getting.
That could be spot on for me.
Time will tell.
I don't have it before yet, but
exactly.
I could see myself saying, no, not ready for that yet.
I'm getting, don't hesitate when the opportunity, if someone even mentions it, I'm hearing, if someone's like, well, you know what, this county position is on the school board is wide open. Like even just a mention, that's the door. Just saying.
Okay. I'm writing it. Do not hesitate.
Yep. And then coming back to your point and how someone brought that up to you, and maybe it was some sort of a spiritual connection and not recognize it. Maybe they don't necessarily know it either, but I don't think there are any accidents, right? And oftentimes we have to hear the same thing from multiple sources or experience it before it starts to stick. So was it divinely inspired? I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, multiple areas when people are telling me the same thing, or I'm seeing the same kind of signs and symbols, that's definitely a telltale sign that I should be listening.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, makes sense to me. It makes sense to me also because I need to make some choices in the next couple of years, year-ish or couple years, about leadership and where I want to pursue that.
What are the choices?
Less leadership or more leadership? I don't really have a lot of choices right now. However, I believe the choices are there, but I have to pursue them and put the work ethic into them to
Kind of set the intention on the trajectory, right?
yeah, like the intention is there, but I have to do a little bit more effort and work in order to land in that position.
So why would you not put forth the effort and the work?
Comfortability. I mean, like, because I can also get right now financially paid to do basically the same thing with not less work, but equal work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's 100% true, but in my current comfortable life, I can be who I am and do my job and make the same amount of money and have the same amount of impact in this realm. If I want to go further, it's going to take a different amount of work. Physically, mentally, emotionally, logically, all the things. So I think I'm a little bit lazy because it's easy.
I think you're coming down hard on yourself.
Well, of course, yeah. But it's easier to continue the status quo than to push myself outside of that box. And I guess question would be for you all is, at what point do I push myself out of that box? Or do I? Or do I just maintain the status quo because I can and I'm successful in that?
Christina.
You, Chris.
That's my only question, actually.
No, it's not that we don't know. I'm getting things already. It was just like, who's going to speak first? So
like, on the table, and she's not allowed to be on the table, so I'm trying to get her down.
Well, that's all right. No problem. Knock her off the table, will you? So
she's like fully taking advantage of the Zoom call.
Yeah, I've seen her come by. Well, okay. So at what point do you push yourself out of the box? And here's the debate in my head, because there's a debate in my head. It's like what is needed to be done on the physical plane of Earth, right? In this life.
Mm-hmm.
So there is like an element of fate, but there's also a lot of free will. And so there are things that will be done. Who's going to do them? That's another thing. That's another question. So what I'm kind of seeing is that in reality, you could go out of the box tomorrow. Like you start like really planning and taking that forward step. But in the other reality, I'm seeing you're mentally, you haven't caught up to the fact that you have that kind of power. Mm-hmm. And you have that kind of drive. Mm-hmm. And emotionally, you haven't been pissed off enough. So, because emotion really is what drives the big decisions, right? So at present time, you could be like, okay, I guess I'll do it tomorrow. But where's the emotion in it? You haven't been driven to go in that direction yet. So realistically, it, you know, maybe after this pandemic, because I feel like we're still kind of in the throes of a lot of change in general as humans. So, you know, let ride the wave, let it settle down, see what it kind of looks like, because who knows, it might look a little different. And then I kind of feel there will be there'll be two parts of you. One area is going to be like, now what do I do? Because right now it is a little bit interesting because there is a little drama in the world. There's drama happening, and that's interesting, even though it might be a little bit infuriating, or, you know, experiencing a little discomfort with it, right?
Yeah.
So there will be a point where it's like, okay, now what do I do? So there will be that boredom or looking for something a little bit more, which is, I'm being told, is what you did with teaching. You're like, well, I'm a teacher, I'm damn good at it, so now what do I do? And it's like, oh, well, I can help others be teachers as well, you know? So it's like the logical step came forward because of that, like, oh, I've already accomplished that. What's next? So there's that side. And the other side is, I feel like there'll be some situations where you just be like, are you kidding me? This is the way we handle this? And this is written in some sort of document? This is ridiculous. Are you kidding me? Let me pick up the phone and call this person who's got his name on this. He's never stepped foot in a classroom. I want to give him a call. You know, it kind of like starts something like that. So you'll probably feel naturally inclined to push yourself into the next area and then the next area. So don't feel this pressure that you have to decide something right now. It's probably just going to unfold.
Oh, that is like so relieving. and honestly, you have no idea what's going on in my school district and all the things. So like, that's relieving though. It really is.
Why did you choose to be a teacher?
I'm sorry, what?
Why did you choose to be a teacher?
Because I want to change the world.
So here's your opportunity.
Tell me more about that, Chris.
You knew, even though you probably couldn't explain it, that you just wanted to teach from the time that you were younger. And when Christina was talking, I had this little vision or a snippet of you as you're you, but you were someone else. And there was like a sea in the background. And it was almost like this small amphitheater, and you were talking. So there's a little bit of like ivory tower and philosophizing, as opposed to real world work. So it was more philosophy than it was in the trenches. And it's unique, and you could be wrong about all this, but just suppose that perhaps, 2,000 years ago that your soul was a teacher. And so now you've given yourself the same sort of experience at this very unique moment in time, right? Where at a global level, things are shifting rapidly, and the patriarchy and the white privilege and things are, it's dying, right? And then this old model is dissipating, even though we're hanging on to it as best as we can and trying to restrict voting rights and all these things, right? But at the end of the day, the 75-year-old orange-haired fat presidential sort of person is slowly going to dissipate, never fully go away, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a new model. And when we listen to what the younger generations want, because I do believe that this younger generations are inspired and inspiring, they're the ones who can drive the change. So then Brooke has an opportunity as someone with experience and a voice and with a little bit of white privilege to be able to move mountains for these kids, whether that's in a political form or as an activist. If you really want to change the world, know that you already have, and you are, but you do have an opportunity to do it on a larger scale. And perhaps that's why you chose to be Brooke. And that's why he chose to be here. And while we're having this conversation, because it's easy to get comfortable and to just kind of sit in our rooms and wait for the world to open back up, we can have an even greater impact if you choose to. You don't have to. There's nothing wrong if you don't, right? You already are. But I don't think any of this is an accident. That's not what I'm getting at all. And you know that.
I 100% know it. 100% know it. In my heart, 100% know it. You're spot on.
Yeah.
And you know zero about me.
Well, and this is where we come back to the vulnerable part of your heart, not just the heart, because I mean, heart can be courage and strength and all these other things. But if you lead with that vulnerability and say, I have not done this before, I'm putting myself out there. This is stuff that I'm not necessarily comfortable with, but this is how I'm going to lead now. You can move mountains.
Wow. I have no words. I literally have no words because that's my heart. The vulnerability, the activism, the global level. And it doesn't have to be global, but if I can make an impact with 5 students or 5,000, it doesn't matter. And it's not about students, it's about people. It's about people. And I think that's important.
Those 5,000 people, 5,000 souls are connected to minimally 10,000 souls, or minimally to 100,000 souls. So just by changing 5 and altering the course of 5, you're impacting potentially millions.
Yeah. It's that ripple effect.
So global it is.
Wow.
I'm glad you got out of bed for this, Brooke.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that I was asleep. You California people. No, I shouldn't have been asleep at 8:30 Central anyway.
I'll probably be asleep at 8:30 Pacific, but you know.
Oh my gosh, it's just been a long day. Wow. No, I gotta give you Chris some credits. Because I would call Christina Chris also in my past life. But like, oh yeah, I really appreciate it because you doubt yourself. You doubt your leadership ability. You doubt what you think you're called to do or be or impact. And so this is really important to me because I have some steps to make in my future over the next year or 2. And so these things are really important to me to know that I should continue on that path and not just be like, okay, well, this is the end of the road. Just, go back into the classroom and do what you can do in there. You're good there too. I mean, I have people tell me every day, like, you should just be in the classroom. You're awesome. But this really solidifies for me that, like, that's not my final spot.
You can totally do that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
I believe that.
But I think deep down, you're not wired to do that.
Not wired to do that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. It's not your design.
I agree.
Well, with all that said, is there anything else that we can give you any help with, Brooke?
I feel like very happy with what you gave me.
Excellent.
Because honestly, my questions were more about career and leadership and those sort of things. And I didn't have to ask my questions because you them.
That's usually how it happens here.
That's great. Well, I mean, the dirty little secret on my side is that, this isn't how I make a living. Right. And I could not do this, and it would be okay. Christina could not do this, and it would be okay. I'm still helping people. But when we have experiences like this, where I don't know anything about you, and there's a couple of things that we can say or do that make a significant shift, and it feels great. And it's very, very, very rewarding. And I suspect that it's the same experience for you, right? Because we put this out there into the wild, and we're leading with our hearts on this, and good things continue to happen. And I know that'll be the same for you.
And I super appreciate it.
Do I?
The whole piece, I had zero expectations, zero, obviously.
Oh, it's a great place to start with Chris and I, right?
But very good for my heart and soul.
Same.
I do feel a little,
appreciate it.
I do feel a little compelled before we say goodbye, which is just be in a moment, to say that Brooke and I are from the same area. We're from the Bible Belt. And I know that this might, in some ways, interfere with belief, but actually, in my experience, it kind of strengthens, because really, when it comes down to it, we're all, parts of God, and there's something bigger than us. And so it's very similar, and we're not doing it in the name of any kind of church or anything. We're doing it because it just feels right, and it feels good, and it feels nice to serve in the ways that we're designed. So I don't want you to feel like you went against your religion today or anything, Brooke.
I don't think the Holy Spirit was a lot different.
100% do not.
Okay.
But I appreciate your recognition of that, because it's a real thing. The Southern Bible Belt conservatism is a real thing. And what I've had to understand is that I have to embrace that, but then I also have to be open to whatever else the world has for me. And thank you so much for allowing me to do that and believing that I could do that, despite, because Christina knows how conservatively I was brought up. Very, probably more so than you.
She went to Oral Roberts.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You can see.
Yeah. So I super appreciate her willingness to be open to that. And it's seriously been amazing, because I had some questions. Most of my questions were really about career and leadership and those sort of things. And you guys, I didn't have to ask, because you talked about all of those things. So.
Well, I'm so glad that you came on. Thank you so much to you, Brooke. And of course, Chris, thank you to you.
Wow.
Mwah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chris and Chris. Christina and Chris.
Bye for now, guys.
Bye, guys.